Where'd you come from? The back door was open. Man, they didn't have prom nights like that when I was a kid. Mainly because this movie came out a year before I was born, so that would have been logistically impossible. Nevertheless, I'm John Renton with the retro review of Prom Night, Prom Night, Prom Night, Prom Night, Prom Night, Prom Night, it's alright. Alright, God, that song is going to be forever stuck in my head. I don't even think I got the lyrics right. The disco music from this movie, the disco elevator music, will be stuck in your head. Will be infesting your kids' ears and nesting, testing, attention please, and boy, was this disco music testing me. So yeah, this was when Jamie Lee Curtis was on the rise. I just retro-reviewed Terror Train, check that out, and Jamie Lee Curtis was the Scream Queen for a reason. Though I gotta be honest, her role was kind of marginalized. It was more about a killer that's stalking people after a prank went wrong. And also this movie was directed by Paul Lynch. So, not to be confused with David Lynch, obviously, because the names are different. He did Humongous, not Lord Humongous. We're not having that. Some TV shows and also a movie called Blood and Guts. Not to be confused with the AEW War Games version, Blood and Guts. If you are a non-wrestling fan, you have no idea what I'm talking about. Written by William Gray. Very gray area in this movie, particularly logic and how a killer would manage to get from a field back to the school so quickly. And also, it was so goddamn painfully obvious from the beginning who the killer was. And sure, some slashers are like that, but this is almost excruciatingly stretched out. He did Blood and Guts and Humongous, a lot of stuff from that. Also, a story by Robert Guza Jr., who did Curtains, I also retro-reviewed, that wasn't very good, and Melanie. So, as far as Prom Night goes, you know they actually made 4 of these movies? Well, 5 if you count the 2008 Prom Night remake, which I really don't, but it did lead to one of my most fun intros, because one of the guys was from That Thing You Do, so I decided to just butcher that song like I butcher every goddamn song, because it's for fun. Why not have fun? Let's have fun talking about Prom Night. With a little bit of a fun fact when it comes to the series, it really wasn't necessarily a series. In fact, the second one wasn't even going to be called Prom Night 2, or Hello Mary Lou Prom Night 2, or Prom Night 2 Hello Mary Lou. However they said it. It was going to be Welcome to Hamilton High. The school was going to be the connection, but that was it. It was going to be taken in a totally different direction. And then they did other stuff. And then they did a third one that was connected to the second one. The fourth one wasn't connected to those. Also, look at the cover art. Look at the cover art of the second, the third, and the fourth movies. It's like R.L. Stine inspired them. Okay, terrible. Let's talk about the fact Leslie Nielsen, doing a one-man show. Leslie Nielsen was in this as the principal. In the same year that he was in Airplane. I just want to tell you both good luck. We're all counting on you. Jamie Lee Curtis, Casey Stevens, Anne Marie Martin, which just sounds like she should be in some kind of snooty Pride and Prejudice remake. Antoinette Bauer. Man, that's also a very snooty sounding name. And a few other people. So really this is just a slasher in the vein of, going from the Halloween, mega stardom, or, the mega popularity of that. Not so much Halloween 2 because it hadn't come out yet. And not Halloween 3. You want to hear me butcher the Silver Shamrock ad? Check that one out after this. And there was also, Friday the 13th. I will say that among the two, this was better than Terror Train. Probably due to the fact this was this felt a little more grounded, ironically, because the first one was on a train, but that one just didn't necessarily work. It had they both had stupid killers. And Jamie Lee Curtis got to unleash her screaming terror train while she just kind of wandered around, at times dressed like a high school student, despite the fact that I think she was in her early 20s, and other times looking like she was ready to go to a secretary job. Honestly, I don't remember people dressing like that in high school, even when I saw pictures, but I guess people dress more professionally, as opposed to the damn kids these days. It was directed by Robert New. Let me tell you what didn't look new about this movie. Anything. It looked painfully generic. So, there was a hide-and-seek game, and then this one girl came along that was picked on. Killers are coming. Gross. I think I'd rather die than have a killer come on me. Kill. They either were a fan of The Crawling Hand, or they just were a fan of the Children of the Corn movie that hadn't come out yet. Kill. Kill. The disco music would drive anybody to kill. Casey and the Sunshine Band, eat your heart out. Nothing can beat elevator disco music. But all the synth score and kill, and then the girl puts herself up in the landing in a stagey way, falls through this dilapidated window of this dilapidated building. The parents somehow allowed their kids to be in, and then that child dies. So, there you go. Now we suddenly have, a number of years later, after these kids were, they were kids and they played that, there are 4 people in particular that are targeted. And I'm going to give you a bit of a spoiler because, well, fuck you. Jamie Lee Curtis, she was one of them. Big shock. It's Alexander Hamilton Senior High School. Great, now I need to rewatch Hamilton. That movie's 2.5 hours, but it's great. Can you come out to play tonight? Is a creepy voice that's being said, and everybody's targeting all these particular people. You can tell who it is. Even with the silhouette, you can tell that it's Kimberly's brother. Kimberly, played by Jamie Lee Curtis. You can tell it's him. Also, I just want to point out that Kimberly's brother and Kimberly's boyfriend in this movie look oddly similar. Maybe that was just because of the weird, fro that white guys tried to have. So there's a side story about this possible killer, a former sex offender. Actually, there is no such thing as a former sex offender. You're a goddamn piece of shit and you deserve to rot, or be burned, or filleted alive. Nevertheless, he's a sex offender. He was burned horribly in a car fire, and then he escapes the sanitarium by taking a nurse with him and stealing her car. And then that just gets forgotten about for a while. There's a crank call, a series of crank calls. Crank? Whore? Ha ha ha. And since he escaped, they think he's the killer. There's also David Gardner that plays Dr. Fairchild, who is one of the creepiest doctors, and he's in 2 or 3 scenes. They honestly forget totally about, this guy possibly being the killer. I mean, it makes sense who the killer is, but it's like, oh no, we need to have this thing that's obviously a red herring, and then we devote a little bit of scenery to it, and then we forget about it. Just go over here, nothing even happened with it. And then let's address it in one more scene a little bit later. Kim and Wendy are at odds over this one guy that, again, looks like Kimberly's brother. Really, really gross stuff. And then her boyfriend is fighting this guy. Her boyfriend or her brother are fighting this. No, the brother's fighting this guy, Lou. Again, they look similar. Lou, by the way, not Lou Diamond Phillips. La 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 bamba. He has the creepiest and, most killer-inducing sideburns. I would honestly kill rather than have those sideburns. And then Leslie Nielsen does his one-man show and kicks Lou out, and he says, I'll see you later. My sideburns will see you sooner because they've overtaken me. And then the lieutenant says, we've got to get merch. We've got to get murked, as the kids say. I don't know what that means. I'm 41. I don't understand what you children say. Get off my lawn. Cam then reflects on what happens with her boyfriend, that again looks like her brother. And then Lou and Wendy, they are going to bring down the dance, bringing down the house. But don't worry, the elevator disco music does that. There's a creepy landscaper that is in all of a few scenes. He picks up trash at one point, gets flashed by one girl that looked about 40, yet she was in high school. I don't know, maybe she was hit by a collection of birds, much like Fabio on that roller coaster. And you thought that I was going to do dated random references in this particular review. Anybody remember the Fabio, was it a seagull? I think it was. Anyway, there's all this tension music. And then we get to the disco prom that takes up about 80 million minutes of this movie. Seriously, it's astonishing how much disco music was put in this. Disco isn't the worst thing in the world, but it also is one of those music genres that is better left forgotten about. At least I'd say 80% of it. Then at one point, Jamie Lee's getting ready for the dance and sees her brother, says, are you going to help me or are you just going to leer? You're my sister. I'll just leer. Gross. You're not in Alabama. Sorry to any of the good people in Alabama. Arkansas, as one person called it. It's Arkansas, by the way, you idiots. But to a disco prom, and they're just doing the dance and 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 dance. Okay, then there's this other thing about one of the girls that was part of the whole thing that sleeps with a guy named Slick, who's not a jive soul bro, and he's not always lying to his friends. He's actually got this girl inside the interior of his van, as opposed to inside the exterior of his van. And they sleep together, but he breaks his glasses. Oh no, get him his glasses. He can't see anything without his glasses. I meant to retro review My Girl. Moving on. This guy ends up seeing the killer, who's in a mask, by the way. So one person gets killed. Okay, here's the thing. One person gets killed. This girl gets killed. This one girl gets killed while after refusing to sleep with the guy. God, yeah, let's just make the girl feel absolutely terrible for no reason. And then, and that happens off camera. You can see her eyes and you can hear the noise, and that's it. And I don't mind not showing all that much gore, but it's okay, then they show a bunch of blood. It's just weird. This other girl gets killed in the van, and then he's trying to drive away, but because it's a Chevy van, he can't really go anywhere. And apparently he only knows how to drive in a circle in a field, but he can't see without his glasses. And then the killer somehow bails out. They're in a field, by the way, well away from the high school, seemingly. And then then his van teeters off a cliff and somehow explodes just before it hits the ground. I don't know, maybe I'm just totally wrong. The whole point is, it's just the way it fell. It wouldn't have instantly exploded. You would have needed it to hit, and whatever. maybe his glasses just, were covered in nitroglycerin, as it were. And then now everybody else is being targeted at the dance. The boyfriend gets knocked out, and then the killer axes Lou's head off because of the fight earlier. So Lou's head tumbles out onto the runway that they have. Nobody spills pig's blood on anybody because Carrie had already been out and had done it way better. And then there's disco fighting among the killer with the axe, Jamie Lee Curtis, and her boyfriend / not brother. They're fighting, and she punches him with the axe. And then she sees his eyes. She's like, no, we need to get him. So then, no, don't shoot him. And then he's all, they killed her. I killed her. And he was seeking revenge because he was a self-hating person. And that's what it was. It was the brother. It was the goddamn brother. The movie isn't terrible, by the way. Even though it sounds like I was really dumping on it. It just isn't necessarily good. That being said, it's infinitely better than number 2, number 3, and number 4. Number 4 about demonic priest. I almost am tempted to torture myself by rewatching the next 3. I'm also tempted to, thump myself in the head with a hammer for a while until I, forget that I ever thought that. Agree, disagree with what I said, like, share, subscribe, Twitter handle in the description. I'm John Ritlin. I'll see you soon.